All right, everyone get ready because today we are going deep on something pretty weird.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of this guy, Forrest Fred?
Mm.
Just try to imagine, okay, a low-budget Mr. Rogers,
Okay.
but with a little Indiana Jones mixed in.
Interesting combination.
And just to make it even more strange, he always has a bluebird just sitting on his shoulder.
Wow.
And the most strange part is that he always wears one sandal and one sneaker.
What?
It's so strange.
That's definitely a look.
Yeah, and this guy had a public access TV show back in the 80s and 90s.
Back when public access was really something.
I know, right? And get this, the show is making a comeback.
Seriously.
No kidding.
Yeah.
People are finding it, and they love it.
I guess some things never go out of style.
And we have this really interesting article about the whole thing, and we're going to try to figure out who this Forrest Fred guy really is.
That's a great question.
And why are people suddenly so interested in him so many years later?
It makes you think about how we view the past, especially now with the internet.
I know. Just think about it. This show was on at like 2:30 in the morning.
Wow.
I mean, who was even awake to watch it back then?
True.
But now everyone is finding it, and they love it.
It's interesting how that happens.
Yeah, so weird.
Well, you have to think about public access TV back then.
It was definitely different.
It wasn't like regular TV. There were basically no rules and people could put anything on.
Like the Wild West of TV.
Exactly. People could just do whatever they wanted and it was often so creative.
So you're saying Forrest Fred was a product of his time, like when TV was more experimental?
Exactly.
Because there was less pressure to make everything perfect and polished?
I think that's a big part of it.
Makes sense.
And maybe that's why he seems so appealing now.
Yeah, because everything now is so polished and overproduced.
Right. And he's like a breath of fresh air, you know?
Just being himself.
Exactly.
So there's this artist, Sabrina, and she seems to be a big reason why people are interested in Forrest Fred again.
Huh.
Well, she makes all this amazing fan art and posts about the show online.
Ah, the power of social media.
I think she really started this whole revival,
That's so interesting how social media can bring things back from the past.
right?
I think it really taps into our nostalgia, that feeling of wanting things to be like they were before.
Even if it's something as weird as watching a guy with a bluebird on his shoulder at 2:30 a.m.
I guess so.
I mean, and the shoes. Don't forget the shoes.
How could I? One sandal, one sneaker, that's a statement.
It's such a strange but memorable thing, you know?
It's like those little details that become iconic, you know what I mean? Like a symbol for a specific person or time.
Like just seeing the silhouette of a character and you know exactly who it is.
Right. Or like a specific item they always have.
Like Forrest Fred's footwear.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
strange, but it's memorable and it's definitely unique.
You know, the article talks about how there are all these other people now trying to be like Forrest Fred.
Copycats.
Yeah, like YouTubers trying to make similar videos.
Oh,
I guess they want to get some of that Forrest Fred magic.
well, good luck to them.
There's even one guy who wears a flip-flop and a boot.
Seriously.
It's kind of sad, actually.
It seems like they're missing the point.
It reminds me of how everyone is buying vinyl records and old Polaroid cameras again.
It's that desire for the original, you know?
Right.
Like the real deal.
What do you think it is about the originals that makes them so much better?
It's hard to put your finger on it, but there's a certain authenticity to the original.
Do you think it's because they weren't trying so hard to be something they're not?
Maybe.
Like Forrest Fred was just being himself. He wasn't trying to fit in.
Yeah, there was no algorithm to please or trends to chase back then.
He was just authentically himself.
Right.
And now that's what makes him stand out.
It makes you think about how much we've lost in trying to be perfect online.
Have we just given up on being ourselves just to get likes and followers?
Something to think about.
And here's the craziest part.
What's that?
No one knows who Forrest Fred really is.
What do you mean?
I mean, people have tried to find
No,
him.
like what, they've Googled him.
Oh, yeah. And there are whole groups on Reddit dedicated to figuring out who he is.
No way.
And there's even a hotline people can call if they have any information.
Wow, people are really invested.
But it's like he just vanished.
That makes it even more interesting.
It really does. It's like the mystery makes him even more appealing.
I think you're right. The fact that we don't know who he is lets us imagine all kinds of things about him.
We can make up our own stories about his life and why he made the show.
It's like a blank canvas, and we can fill it in however we want.
It's like the mystery is more fun than knowing the answer.
It's true. We love unsolved mysteries.
We just have to figure things out,
It's like a basic human need to understand things.
especially when the world feels so chaotic and unpredictable.
I think you're right.
We crave answers and explanations for things.
Mysteries give us a chance to find those answers, or at least try to.
It's comforting in a way.
I can see that.
Oh, and there's another weird thing. Sometimes he calls himself Forest Fred,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes he says he's Funky Fred.
Interesting.
So what's that all about? Like, is he joking around? Does he have, like, different personalities, or is there something else going on?
That just adds to how mysterious he is.
I know, right?
It really makes you think about, like, what it means to be a performer and how that relates to who you really are.
Like, was he trying to be someone else? Or were both Forest Fred and Funky Fred just, like, different sides of himself?
It's a good question.
Yeah, it's like we're trying to solve a puzzle or something.
That's a good way to put it.
We have all these little pieces, but we don't know how they fit together.
I guess that's part of the fun, though, trying to figure it all out.
I guess you're right.
We humans are drawn to the unknown.
It's true. We love a good mystery.
Think about it. We're fascinated by ancient civilizations and unsolved crimes.
And don't forget space.
Of course, space is the ultimate mystery.
Yeah, like the things we don't understand just draw us in, you know?
There's something powerful about that, like a pull that we can't resist.
Okay, so we've got this mysterious guy and this whole trend of people loving retro stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone is obsessed with finding out who Forest Fred is.
It's a cultural phenomenon.
What do you think this all says about us? You know, about what's going on in the world right now?
I think deep down, people are craving something real.
Especially in a world that feels so fake sometimes.
Yeah, we see all these perfect images and stories online.
And it makes us feel like we have to be perfect too.
Right. But then you see someone like Forrest Fred who wasn't trying to be perfect at all.
But he was just being himself.
And I think that's what resonates with people.
Yeah, like he was just this breath of fresh air, you know?
Exactly.
Like he reminds us that it's okay to be different and to just be ourselves.
That's a powerful message, especially these days.
And this isn't just about Forest Fred. This is happening everywhere.
What do you mean?
Like people wanting real things, not fake things.
Like vintage clothes.
Yeah, and handmade
Yeah,
stuff.
DIY projects.
Exactly. It's like people are realizing that what's real is actually beautiful.
Even if it's not perfect.
Exactly. Like it's the imperfections that make things interesting and unique.
I think that's a great way to put it.
So maybe Forrest Fred is more than just a TV host.
Maybe he's a symbol of something bigger.
A symbol of being real in a world that's obsessed with being fake.
That's a really interesting idea.
It's like he's reminding us to be ourselves even if we're a little weird.
And to embrace our weirdness.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
it's okay to wear mismatched shoes and have a bluebird on your shoulder.
And to just do your own thing.
You know, I've noticed that none of these copycats can really capture what made Forrest Fred special.
What do you think it is about him that's so hard to copy?
It's like he had this genuine enthusiasm and sincerity that you just can't fake.
I agree. It's like he was truly passionate about what he was doing.
And he believed in it.
Exactly. And that comes across on screen.
It's like trying to copy a painting. You can get the brushstrokes right.
But you can't capture the artist's soul.
It's like there was this special combination of his personality, the time he was living in.
And his creativity.
And that's what made him so unique.
And impossible to copy.
So, remember Sabrina, the artist we talked about?
Yeah, the one making all the Forrest Fred fan art.
Well, some people think she might be connected to him somehow.
Like how?
Like maybe she's his daughter or niece or something.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a theory. But it's interesting, right?
I guess it wouldn't be the first time a fan had a connection to the person they admire.
Conspiracy theories always pop up when there's a mystery.
And the internet makes it so easy for those theories to spread.
It's like we just can't resist trying to connect the dots, even if there aren't any dots to connect.
It's human nature to look for patterns and explanations.
I guess we just want to make sense of the world.
Especially when things seem random or chaotic.
So do you think there's any truth to the rumors about Sabrina?
It's hard to say for sure, but she definitely seems passionate about Forrest Fred.
And her art has definitely helped to bring him back into the spotlight.
Maybe she does know something we don't.
Or maybe there's a connection that we haven't discovered yet.
Anything is possible.
The internet can be a powerful tool for uncovering hidden truths.
And sometimes fans are the ones who make the biggest discoveries.
So we might not know who Forrest Fred really is or what his connection to Sabrina is.
But one thing's for sure, this story is far from over.
And I have a feeling there are more surprises in store.
I think you're right.
So we've talked about the cultural significance of Forrest Fred.
And the mystery surrounding his identity.
And we've even explored some of the deeper meanings behind his comeback.
But what does it all mean for our listeners?
What about this story resonates with you?
What questions does it raise in your mind?
What makes you want to keep digging for answers about Forrest Fred? It's really interesting, this whole Forrest Fred thing.
Yeah.
It makes you think about why we like mystery so much.
Well, I think it's just part of being human, you know?
Like, we're always trying to figure things out.
Exactly. We want to make sense of the world.
And when something doesn't make sense, we want to know why.
It's like our brains are wired for it.
And with Forrest Fred, there are so many mysteries.
It's true. There's his real identity, the whole Funky Fred thing.
And what's going on with Sabrina?
It's like a puzzle box.
With all these layers.
And each layer has another mystery.
Our listeners are definitely into this.
Yeah.
They've sent us tons of questions.
It sounds like a lot of people are fascinated by this guy.
They really are. They want to know more.
Well, let's see if we can answer some of their questions.
Okay, here's one from Sarah.
Okay.
She wants to know if we think we'll ever find out who Forrest Fred really is.
That's a tough one.
Do you think this is a mystery that will never be solved?
Part of me thinks that the mystery is what makes him so interesting.
Like the not knowing lets us imagine anything we want about him.
Exactly. We can fill in the blanks ourselves.
So you're saying that maybe knowing the answer would ruin it.
It's possible there's something magical about the unknown.
But don't you want to know the real story?
Of course, I'm curious too.
It'd be amazing to know if he's out there somewhere watching all this happen.
Like, does he know he's become this internet sensation?
Maybe he's laughing about it.
Well, maybe he wants to stay anonymous.
Who knows?
It's all part of the mystery.
Okay, here's another question.
Okay.
This one's from Alex.
Uh-huh.
They want to know why people are so into this show, even though it's from so long ago.
I think people are looking for something real, something authentic.
Like a break from all the fake stuff online.
Exactly. Forrest Fred was just himself. There was no pretense.
And he had this love for nature and these really genuine life lessons.
It's refreshing, you know?
It's like he reminds us of a simpler time.
When things weren't so complicated.
Before we were all trying to be perfect on social media.
There's a real appeal to that.
Okay, last question.
All right.
This is from Maria.
Go ahead.
She wants to know what makes Forrest Fred more than just some internet fad.
What gives it staying power?
Exactly.
I think it's a combination of things.
Like what?
Well, the show itself is really heartwarming.
Even though it wasn't fancy or anything.
Right, but Forrest Fred's message is really genuine.
About being kind, being curious.
And respecting nature.
Those are things that never go out of style.
Exactly.
And then there's the mystery.
Which keeps people hooked.
They want to know more.
And who can blame them?
Maybe we're not supposed to solve the mystery.
You think?
Maybe it's better to just enjoy it.
Maybe the lesson is to embrace the unknown.
To find beauty in things that don't make sense.
I like that.
To remember that sometimes the most important things are the ones we can't explain.
That's a really great point.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Forrest Fred, we want to leave you with one last question.
Okay, shoot.
If you could ask Forrest Fred one question, what would it be?
What are you most curious about?
Let us know. Share your questions and theories.
Because who knows, maybe Forrest Fred is out there listening.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Until next time.